This function problem is about being able to read tables that have to deal with functions, obviously. So let's understand that first. Now, it's not the examples I'm about to give you right now, they don't have anything to do with this problem, but let's make sure we understand how to figure out the values of these questions. So if I asked you g of -2, if I asked you g of -5, what would the answers be for these two questions? So in a function table, what we do is whatever's inside the parentheses, in this case -2, is actually the x value. So I go over here to my table, I'm looking at the x values, I see -2 right there. So g of -2 would implies that's 0. So g of -2 is 0. That's just the y value. G of x is these numbers right here, the y values, and these numbers right here, the y values. So similarly, g of -5, like you might have guessed, I'm looking down my x columns, I see -5 there, so g of -5 must be 6. So keep that stuff in mind while we go to this problem now. So let me get this stuff out of the way. Perfect. Now, this question is saying, the function g is defined by the table above, for which values of x does g of x equal the absolute value of x? It's definitely confusing at first, but slow it down, think about what the question is, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the answer choices to my advantage. So saying for which values of x does g of x equal the absolute value of x? So let's go to answer choice A. Answer choice A is saying the value of x is g of -6, okay? Answer choice B is saying it's g of -5. Answer C is saying it should be g of -4, and answer D is saying it should be g of -3. So let's figure out what all of these are. So g of -6 according to the table is 8. G of -5 according to the table is 6. G of -4 according to the table is 4. And g of -3 according to the table is 2. If you were still confused and you take a wild guess, something tells me C should be the answer, just because it's dealing with the absolute value, and over here absolute value of -4 would be 4. But let's figure out why exactly the answer is C, because it is C. The question is saying, for which values of x does g of x equal the absolute value of x, right? Now, in this scenario, in answer choice A, x was -6, right? The absolute value of -6 is 6. So in order for this to be the right answer, this number right there should have been 6, which it's not, so that's why this wasn't it. Same exact thing here. X is -5, so the absolute value of x should have been, absolute value of -5 should have been 5, which it's not true here either. But now hopping over here, x is -4, but what's the absolute value of -4? 4, which is what the answer is. And look at how the question is. The question is saying g of x equals the absolute value of x. So whatever this number is, I want the answer over here to be that same number but the absolute value of it, and that's only true right there. Confusing problem, a little bit tricky concept. Try watching this video a couple more times, make sure you understand it. Important one though.